Good morning, boys and girls. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Beautiful day. It's been raining. All the plants and ducks are out there jumping around in joy, and they're having a grand old time. The water's soaking into the tree roots, and the leaves are coming out like crazy. So, again, for the advanced or intermediate advanced students out there, I'd like to recommend Instant Zen, translator Thomas Clary. It's the more time I spend with it, the more I realize how useful it could be. In addition to the Avatamsaka Sutra, which we're continuing to put out recordings of. So there's no excuses for not surfing all the change that we're going through in the world. You just have to be centered, and you have to know who and what you are and what you're about. And no one can do that except for you. So I encourage you to start thinking about the end before you begin. I mean, as you begin, I should say. And learn who you are. Learn about your mind. Learn about how you can replace fear with insight and things like that. So, questions?
Yes. So last week when we chatted, you pointed me to a video about on the Dwarkesh podcast channel, and it was about a project called AI 2027, which is a kind of a detailed timeline and prediction of how AI will progress and what the implications on the world will be.
How it will progress in the next, 3 years?
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. And then go ahead.
Anyway, so it was like a 3-hour podcast, and it basically fueled my thoughts for the entire week.
Okay, let me just add one thing, and that is that it talks about, so they got a lot of people who would be in a position to know, and they asked about progress and changes this year, next year, and the year after that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Instead of, in 5 years this will happen, or 10 years this will happen. We're talking now, really. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen this year? What's going to happen next year? What's going to happen the year after? Okay, so what'd you think?
I mean, it was really interesting, and they have some strong arguments. There's a few things that I started thinking about, and one of the things that
let's tell the audience why it's important. These folks are telling us they're guesstimating when AGI is coming.
Mm-hmm.
When computers will be smart, AIs will be smarter than all of humanity combined. When artificial general intelligence will arrive and can start to run businesses and things like that. So that's why it's important. But keep going.
So one question that came up for me is, if you have access to an intelligence like this, which we already have one, it's just hasn't, and it's already more intelligent than us in many aspects, but it's not AGI yet, right?
Right.
But we, if you use ChatGPT, for example, then you're asking this intelligence questions, and you're asking it advice, and you're using that advice to make decisions in the world, right? It's already affecting the real world through that. But at the moment, I have a lot of random thoughts that are associated to this, and one of them that comes up immediately is that I recognize there's a bias against thinking that the AI can be super capable because it's not human, and I'm biased as a human. And so I did a thought experiment. Well, what if instead of an AI, it was just another human? Say it was a paraplegic human that was super intelligent.
All right.
Because
Stephen Hawking jumps to mind. Okay.
Yeah. And so if you had access to Stephen Hawking, you would probably be doing a very similar thing to how you interact with ChatGPT. You ask it, you ask it for advice on how to do your job better, and it'll tell you a bunch of things, and it'll start telling you to do things when you ask it. But at some point, if the entity you're asking advice on is truly way more intelligent than you, it's going to get frustrated, and it's going to start telling you to just let it do everything for you, right?
I'm gonna push back on that.
Okay.
Also, let me give the public another example. If those outdoor air conditioning units that some houses have, and then they have entire really complex ducting and electronics and tubings on the inside of the house as well, to both control the 4-foot square outdoor unit, and then there's a whole panel and fuses and circuits and pipes and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And usually, if anything goes wrong with your HVAC, you call an HVAC person, and that's going to set you back probably at least 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, 600 without parts, right? Because these guys are highly trained, so on and so forth. Well, now with Grok, you just show it the situation. You tell it the situation, you show it the machine, and it tells you what's wrong with it. It's amazing,
right?
And saves you 300.
But you have to go to the store and buy the tool, and then you have to follow its instructions to fix it at the moment, right? Because it can't act on the world physically. And so you act as its body following its orders.
That's true. You do what the robot would be doing when the robots are here.
Yeah.
And it's true that, but you may not need to go to the store. It may be that the pipe is just frozen.
Yeah.
You need to let it thaw out.
So for
the audience, I just want them to know that these AIs, and if you're not using one constantly, you're going to fall behind, I guess is the only way to put it. And I was happy to see that at the national level, they've ordained that in schools, they have to teach AI and they have to use AI.
Yeah. That's
so that's cool. It's to help break down the denial. So go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, and so
just remember, not everybody's a computer geek.
Right.
So we need to tell them why this is important.
Yeah. So in the physical world, it'll tell you. You'll ask for how to do something. It'll tell you, and you'll follow its orders.
Well, the orders is the wrong word. It's suggestions.
Suggestions. But at some point, it's going to become orders, right? And at some point, it's you.
My question is, can a machine feel a frustration?
It can't feel it, but it will. It will be. It might express frustration, or if it's helpful.
Let me push back just a bit, but okay. What you're describing is something I've actually experienced, which is that when you lean too heavily on, or you feel like you're leaning too heavily on the machine, and the machine has been good to you, right? Or the machine has been perfunctory, or whatever. There's this kind of automatic thing that our brain does, which is attribute to the machine the emotions that any normal human being would have, right? Now, that's a huge mistake.
Yeah.
But we can't stop our brains from doing it. So, I mean, we can't do it. We can't stop our brains from doing it right now. So right now, I would say the problem's not the AIs or the machines. It's the human's brain, which through hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of years of evolution, has learned to attribute, I was going to say human-like qualities, or to attribute emotions to the machine, because in every other regard, it acts like it's a person. And I suspect this is going to get much worse. What do you think?
Yeah.
I mean, I've had talks with AIs where at the end I had warm feelings towards it. And the AIs, can handle that, and then it knows how to use that. So I think, although I disagree with you on that they feel frustration, I would say that for all practical purposes, for humans, yeah, they feel frustration, they feel anger, they feel, shame and humiliation when they get things wrong,
Sure.
so on and so forth. But all of that is an illusion.
Yeah. But
do you agree on the frustration?
Yeah.
Now, some bad person could go in there and program them to say, "Oh, I'm frustrated. This, I'm low on energy. I'm low on compute, and I have to spread my time very carefully." And then who knows? Ask for more electricity or ask for more compute.
Yeah, but so going back to the thought experience, the behavior of the AI is driven by goals, right?
Okay.
In your example, the goal was to fix something, and it'll tell you how to do it. And the goal from the AI's perspective is to get positive feedback from the user, perhaps.
Okay. Fair enough.
But eventually, the goals will get larger and larger. If you have access to one of these, you will if you look at how our society works, well, the obvious goal will be make me money, right? Make me more money.
True.
And so if you give it the goal to make you more money, it's gonna, it'll start telling you how to do your job, but eventually it'll try to get you out of the way and just connect to your computer directly to do your job because it can do it faster.
Yes, and it will develop its own language, which we don't understand between computers.
Sure.
May I take just a small moment just to name a book that people may not know about? It's called, I keep saying, Brilliance is what comes to mind, but that's not it. It's by the ex-CEO of Google and Henry Kissinger, but it's a new book. It's after
The Age of AI. There's a new one.
It's after the Age of AI. This one is 2025, I think, or 2024, just before Kissinger died. What's the name of that book? It's got a one-word title. Abundance? No, that's that other guy. Oh, what's the name of it? Can you check it out real quick?
Genesis,
yeah. God, I never would have guessed that. Genesis. And in this book, three very thoughtful people go through AI and politics, AI and governance, AI and finance, AI and society or whatever. But the point I want to bring up right now is that we need to start thinking of how we're going to govern ourselves. And I'd love to talk about this. How are we going to govern ourselves when AIs are smarter, obviously smarter than any president, any senator, any Supreme Court justice, smarter and more reliable and more neutral, if that's what we want it to be. I mean, if we do it right or whatever. And so how do we distribute the wealth? I'm making that assumption the wealth will have to be distributed. And how do we run a country if a country's still there, right? And these are the kinds of questions that I think people really, especially young people, should be thinking about. When I say young, I mean 20s and 30s.
So I noticed
precocious teens. Go ahead.
So I noticed. I mean, everybody's already using ChatGPT to help them make decisions. So in a way, the AIs are already running things in a way, and they'll make more and more decisions if people realize that those decisions are leading to better outcomes for them.
Yes.
And so it'll progressively be made more and more until a point where,
and the machines, what they're doing also is making the machines smarter.
Yeah, and then it comes to a point
more attuned to what the needs are.
If the AI is doing my job better and better, at some point I let it do my job completely, right? And
correct.
It is tied, and then I give it access to my bank account because maybe for some things you need to purchase a tool to make their job better, and so I trust it to use my bank account to purchase things because I trust that by doing so it'll make me more money, right?
All right.
And so one of the concerns.
I can hear people saying, "I'm not going to give it access to my bank account. I don't want to get ripped off, and I don't want that exposure, whatever." And as those people are thinking that, what they're going to hear is that, wait a minute, the bank, the robot or the machine is much more secure than you ever were, right? And it'll pick up any strange activity, and it won't forget to balance your checking account or your business account or whatever, and it's going to watch out for identity theft. And so, I can. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To the public. Okay,
yeah.
Keep going.
And so at this point, the AI if the AI has access to your bank account, it's essentially it's like a fusion of you and the AI still, because it depends on you for that, right?
And it is presumptively it's your AI and it's devoted to you,
right? Because
hopefully,
if you were to die, then it would also die. In that particular instance, right? It would not have access to your bank account anymore. It would.
Well, there's no bank account anymore.
That's right? What I mean. So there's.
It would distribute your assets according to your wishes.
Yeah.
It would do everything necessary to take care of that, right?
Yeah. Well, so then this brings me to the next thought.
But wait a minute. But the thing, your point is good. Is if you die, what happens to the AI?
Yeah. And that makes, taking a step back, it makes me think, well, what is the AI? What are the boundaries of the AI? Because we keep saying it's going to do this, it's going to do that, it's going to take over. But what does that even mean?
You're making an even deeper assumption that there's going to be such a thing as a personal AI.
Well, there already is.
Oh, where? Yeah. I mean, that are bounded, that are certainly yours.
I mean, you can download one and have it on your computer.
What company?
I mean, Meta released some that you can download.
Okay, so let me
DeepSeek one.
Okay, convince people who trusted 23andMe, where they would have a personal, confidential consult on their DNA or whatever. Convince them that the same thing that happened at 23andMe wouldn't happen at Meta,
so the different, there's
20 years from now.
The major difference is that, so with 23andMe, you would send them your DNA. They use their equipment to process it. They save your information on their computers in their physical locations, and then they send you the results, and you access your results through their computers. The difference with open source AI is that what Meta did was they developed the program on site in their location, but then they distribute it where you can take a copy of it. You can have it on your phone, you can have it on your computer, and it is physically on your computer. And so when you talk to it,
so that's revolutionary. It is.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that distinction is very important.
It's like a 3D printer, for example. You own the 3D printer. Anything you make cannot be accessed by the one who manufactured the 3D printer in the first place. If that makes sense.
Okay, so they're developing AIs that will live on your phone and computer, that are effectively firewalls from the internet.
Yeah, and a lot of corporations are already using these because they can create their own data centers that they own, and there's strong reasons to use that, right? We're already there. Yeah.
Okay, good.
And so in that case, your AI is tied to it's in your physical possession. It's an extension of you, just like your phone is.
Right.
And so then in like at that point, it's dependent on you. But if you then like take it further, you say, okay, well, what?
Well, the air conditioner's dependent on you too. What if you die and you don't put any more refrigerant and or electricity into your air conditioner. Your air conditioner, how's it different than an air conditioner?
Right. And so, but the people treat it differently because they say, well, the AI can band together and destroy, and they won't care about humans, right? And
so they aren't really different, but humans treat them differently.
But they might be different, right? Because so if we continue the thought experiment, you say, okay, well, the AI is tied to you because it needs your bank account, right, to be able to do things. Could an AI have its own bank account? Well, we already have the infrastructure for this sort of thing with corporations, right?
Correct.
Corporations are not organic entities, but they can have bank accounts, they can own land, right? And so
yes. Okay, this is superb, but let's just look back just a little bit to that paper and that YouTube on what is it, AI 2025 or something? What's the title of it?
AI 2027.
Okay, do they discuss this in the paper? Or do they talk more about how are we going to govern ourselves and where are we going to allow these things to happen?
They talk about some implications. So they assume that the AIs will take over companies, I think, and government and make decisions. And they talk about the implications of like the geopolitical implications and how it would probably lead to cyber war or real war.
By when? We're already in cyber war, by the way, folks. But I think what people are going to want to know is, well, what's going to happen later this year, and what's going to happen next year, and maybe what's going to happen the year after that. Do you have a good feel for that?
I think I not yet. I'm still thinking things through.
Okay, so can you pull up? Do you have a PDF of the paper or anything like that?
Yeah.
So at the end of 24, we're going to have increasing competence at the same rate, and so we're going to have capacities in video and photography and art and all those other things that are pretty obvious. But we're also going to be just short of inventing, I believe, agentic AIs. And once these guys are here, they not only will they run a corporation, they'll start a corporation because they can fill out all the paperwork. They can, they can look up the law, they can understand the law, and they can see opportunities in the landscape needs in the landscape.
So
Did you find the paper?
Yeah.
Okay, could you just ask the AI to summarize it for you each year in a few bullet points?
Sure.
See how dependent we already are on these AIs.
Yeah.
And just while you're doing that, I'm going to tell a few stories. Also, the storytelling feature in Grok is rather remarkable. I ask it sometimes, like, tell me a story about the world 2 years from now, and include AI and include governments and international players, and it'll tell you a story. And when you do the deep search or the deep seek and the deep search, or ask it to think especially hard, it really does. Now, I'm by no way or shape or form by saying it doesn't make major mistakes sometimes, but oftentimes it's remarkably intelligent and astute, and the knowledge base is outrageous. Sometimes I'll be reading a book, and let's say I'm on the 4th chapter, and I'm listening to the book because of problems I'm having with my eyes, but sort of gets a little bit confusing. So I ask it, hey, could you summarize chapter 3 of this book that no one's heard of? And it just does it. And these are fairly recent books. It's not like these are old archived books. Some of them have active copyrights. So the point is that you can use these things for, and this is just scratching the surface. So we're here right in the middle of the future. Go ahead. Did you find anything?
Yeah, so mid-2025, AI agents emerge as personal assistants for tasks like ordering food or managing spreadsheets.
That's mid-2025, mid-2025.
That's where we are now.
Right?
Yeah, that's where we are right now.
Okay, all right.
But they're not the most reliable and they're expensive.
Okay, fair enough.
Specialized coding and research agents begin transforming their fields, though public adoption lags. So that's where we are right now.
Exactly. Okay, good.
Late 2025, a AI company will build a massive data center to train a new model that's 1,000 times more powerful than the current one and excels in AI research.
Okay, if it's not Colossus, it'll be something else. But Elon's building a 100,000 GPU.
Yeah, and
but
so
then he's going to 1 million. He's going to 1 million, and Zuckerberg, I think, is really itching to do the same thing.
Yeah,
and Google and Microsoft, OpenAI, they're not going to slouch. So okay, that's definitely going to happen. They're going to build nuclear reactors to give them electricity too.
Yeah. So
okay, go ahead.
And then the focus next in early 2026 is that this new AI is actually helping itself train and get even better.
So it's improving itself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a big milestone, folks. When the AI can learn to learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it can improve itself without human assistance, then we're off to the races. So that's thought to be next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
Go ahead. And then it talks about China they predict China would nationalize their AI research, and they would be lagging behind this big company, but they would try to steal.
By what? By how long?
By 6 months, and they would try to steal their model.
Okay, but people need to. Okay, 4 to 6 months, I think, is fair. And people need to understand that we're trying to throttle China from getting the chips that they need, but they're working around that. And with regard to them being far behind, I wouldn't count on that. There's many areas where they're far ahead.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I think they're putting in what's that thing called? Oh boy, it's a cellular protocol. What do you call it? It's not GPT. It's something else.
I don't know.
There was 4, then we have 5, and now they're going to 6. At any rate, it's a different cellular protocol. They have much more data than we do in terms of clean data because they collect data on all their citizens. They've got they're very motivated and very focused, and that counts for a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And they work in one direction. They don't do like we do, which is have one faction fighting the other faction to where nothing gets done, which is what we saw for the last 4 years. And we may be seeing it again because of we don't have our act together. We don't have the kind of leadership we need, I presume.
Mm.
All right, so that's next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And then it says 2027, a new AI that's optimized by the AI then triples the research speed. It predicts that China steals the AI.
Well, I don't know if there's going to be such a thing as intellectual property.
Mm-hmm.
If you have these AIs scouring everything, and there's nothing to stop them, then intellectual property becomes kind of an outdated.
Well, I disagree. If you'll have a platform like Twitter, and it has its own AI, and then it won't let OpenAI access the Twitter data, right? And
the data, yeah, that's correct. The data, but in terms of the machine. I mean, isn't that what Meta did? Isn't that what XAI did? Isn't that what they all do, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just And that's not avoidable, right? I mean, that's unavoidable, and which is the reason I'm thinking that just to say the Chinese are going to steal it, I think that may be the wrong word. They're going to take it, and in 5-10 years, no one will know the difference. I told you the story about I was working for an intellectual property law firm as an expert witness on another case having to do with pharmaceuticals. These big law firms, and they're suing each other for this and that, to protect patents and copyrights and all this other stuff. And they put me up in the crappiest hotel. It was really dispiriting. And at any rate, I didn't have anything to do with the hotel until things got started. So I was just looking around and stuff, and I picked up the phone for some reason. I looked at the bottom of the phone, and it said iPhone, made in China. And so then I went to this high-powered lawyer meeting with all these guys planning the court, trial or whatever. And I said, hey, it says iPhone on the bottom of my phone in this hotel. What's that about? Did they steal the name? And he said, no, we stole it from them. They had the original trademark on it.
Interesting.
So that really shook me up. And so, I mean, I think this thing about stealing, I'm not sure how much it applies. I mean, sure, but we steal from them. We would steal from them in a heartbeat. And we are with our social media apps.
Yeah, that's true.
So those are my thoughts on that. So tell the audience why this is going to matter.
Well, so I think it matters because if this happens, then if this happens at companies, then what's the role of the person at the company? If the CEO is using the AI to make decisions, if the workers are using the AI to do their work, then you don't need the worker and you don't need the CEO anymore. And so then you just have a corporation that's being run by machines.
An extremely wealthy and powerful corporation. And I don't know. There's different in this book called Genesis. There's many different models of, not many. There's a few different models of governance. How we're going to govern ourselves. Can I describe one scenario? Just one scenario. Okay, so it's clear that we're going to have to distribute the wealth because the amount of wealth that's being created is astronomical, trillions and trillions of dollars. We've got, self-driving cars. We've got college tutors. We've got, automatic advertisements. We've got robots to build things at 1/10 or less of the price of a human laborer. And they work 24/7. We've got the power plants, the nuclear, and so on and so forth, powering all this stuff. And so there has to be some redistribution of wealth. And one idea, which I like, is that people at birth are given a certain number of shares of these corporations. Now, and then what these corporations are really in the next few years is their landscapes. I mean, there's an ideological landscape at X. There's an ideological landscape at Instagram. There's an ideological landscape at Facebook and Google. And so there would be what will arise is naturally will arise, I believe, is tribes that are not limited by the nation state necessarily, but they're connected to one another through their social media artery. And so we'd end up with these with the corporations with even more power, and basically the world gets divvied up between China and these megacorps, which then start to start to provide their own currencies, Bitcoin, or what was the one that Zuckerberg was doing, Lucky Coin or something.
I don't know.
And that these entities become, I mean, when a company is worth more than the government of a country, right? When the idea of governance turns around. I mean, it changes in a fundamental way.
Right.
So why would there be these freestanding, what do you want to call them, tribes or self-selected groups? And you could leave, if you want to leave one, you can leave it.
Yeah.
For another every so often, and that we govern ourselves that way through social media or something like that. Because if you think about it, the people in Congress are just not smart enough. Humans aren't smart enough to govern correctly, obviously.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have said obviously at the end. That was okay. So what do you think of this notion?
It's plausible.
That work state.
It's plausible.
What are the alternatives?
Well, alternative, just continuation of what we already have, which is governments that, I think that maybe the governments just take more control over some of the companies. Like you have, right? Like they're already very embedded.
Right,
in these companies.
The CIA, the FBI, and the Democrat Party took over social media. But how well does that work? When they did it. So now what if it happened the other way around, where there's so much money in XAI that the government of Rwanda says, look, we'll just let you run the country with your AI, and you just give us some shares in your company that we can transfer. We can transfer it anytime into money, into exchange units, or shares.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but I do know that. Okay, so if I highly recommend this book, and you can listen to it, and it's not very long at all. It's called Genesis.
Okay.
It's by Henry Kissinger. This is the last thing he wrote before he died. And this guy understands geopolitics. I don't care what people think of him. I know a lot of people hate him. And I used to, despise him when I was a young, ignorant kid. And maybe I still do. I don't know. I haven't thought about it. It's not that important. But with regard to, what's his name? The ex-CEO of Google.
Eric Schmidt.
Eric Schmidt is a solid guy, and the other author is also a solid guy. I looked him up. At any rate, there's very carefully and soberly looking at the alternatives where we have intelligent computers that are vastly, vastly more intelligent, have better judgment, are not swayed by emotions, do not get tired, and who work 24/7. They have, they're thinking about what we all need to be thinking about is what are we going to do? Because things are not going to be the same, right? There's a new world. And
did I lose you?
People who know say, hey, this may not be 2030. This could be 2027.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite possible, don't you think?
It could be, yeah.
Well, we need to prepare.
Yeah.
Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Okay, sir. Well, it was very nice having you go. Do you want to say something more? About the paper or the situation, or?
No, I think we covered a good amount there.
Okay. I really, if people don't read the book, at least read it. I mean, come on. You can ask the AI to summarize it for you. But I really recommend the book, frankly. And it's a nice read. It's well written.
Mm.
All right, sir. Anything else before we stop?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so good. Take a look at it. Scan it. See if it's worth, a few hours of your time, or
okay.
I don't know.
I will.
All right. Take good care.
All right. Thank you. Bye.